Greetings, this is Keith, also known as Darkholder for Mindless Pursuits, and welcome to an Unreal Engine quick hit tutorial on old school jibbing. For those who don't know what jibbing is where you get hit with a shot and your now dead character explodes into a bunch of meaty, bloody chunks. Used to be fairly common in games. I don't know how much it's still done these days. Probably quite a bit. I just am not paying attention to it as much as I used to, like so many things. But I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself, but I'm not going to do it in exactly the old style, simply because when I tell you what the old style is, it's very, very simple. Okay, software used in this session, Unreal Engine 4.8.3, and a pre-made character skeleton and materials. I am using a character that I pre-made in Fuse, so it's all there. There's nothing special to it. Objective of the session: hey, I want you to become jibtastic in a new way using the Unreal Engine. So the way that was always common in the past in game development to do it is very, very simple. When your character would die, you would quickly destroy the old actor and you would substitute a new set of particles, or in this case, a new set of a new set of static meshes that you would just apply a small amount of force to and send them flying away. So we could do that. We could have a whole bunch of different things in here, and I'll probably show that at the end, depending upon how long this gets. But I wanted to show you a better way to do it, or a more interesting way to do it, using the Unreal Engine. But we're not going to cover character creation, we're not going to cover FBX creation to do static meshes, we're not going to cover material creation, and I'm certain there are lots of other ways of doing jibs, and the two I've got planned, the one that I just talked about, and the way we're going to see how to do it here. So let's go ahead and hop in. Now what you see here is a project that I have been working on. It's just a fan game that I started a while back using some ideas I had before I started working on my marketplace idea and before I really started doing a whole lot with the tutorials. So there's not much to it. It's built on the third-person map. Got a couple starts. You'll see some familiar stuff in here if you've been following my other series. I'll show you what happens at the moment. So if you play, we'll spawn, shotgun, down the guy goes, and after a few seconds he'll just automatically respawn on the spot where he was. So I was testing network multiplayer stuff, and I didn't really want to have to stop and start the engine every time. Now what you don't see on the screen is there's actually a separate server window. I run on two different monitors, and I didn't want to bring them into overlap because we really don't need it for this. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a very simple way of jibbing, and that uses Unreal Engine's built-in destructible meshes. So the first thing we have to do is we have to import something that can be a destructible mesh. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder at the root called Destructo Keys. We can go in here and we're going to create another new folder, which is Mesh and Materials. And we'll go in there, and we're going to go ahead and import. So let's go to E and let's find Fuse Creations, which is where I tend to start my Fuse stuff. I have a plain old FBX model here. Now, the first thing is I am not going to import it as a skeletal mesh. I'm just going to import it as a static mesh. We can ignore the level of detail, we can ignore most of this stuff. We are okay there. We'll go ahead and import all. Maybe saying, well, why not import it as a skeletal mesh? Because you can't actually use a destructible mesh made from a skeleton, or from a skeletal mesh. It doesn't work. So what you would end up having to do is you'd have to create a physics actor. Yep, I know there's no smoothing. You'd have to create a physics actor that was a bunch of pieces held together, and then you could explode them with force as well. I thought about showing that version, but that gets into a lot of modeling stuff that I didn't want to cover at the moment. And of course, once you start going outside, do a lot of extra modeling, then you make things more complex. But know that if you want to pursue it, you could also build a physics actor that was a bunch of held together pieces they would just explode in the end. Now we have something similar to a skeletal mesh to work with. But here we go. So our dude is imported. Show it really quick. It's just me, fat version of me. Nothing terribly exciting. T-pose. See all the textures on the right side. The whole works. But the important thing is that he does have a collision, because if he didn't have a collision, we'd have to create one. Now we can right-click on him, and we can say Create Destructible Mesh. It'll take a second to load in the editor. Compile our shaders. As you can see, we're non-textured. Now the one thing I would recommend is if you're going to do this for a character in your game, is that you try and get a pose that's somewhat similar to how your characters will be doing. Or maybe, you know, the pose that would happen if they were dead or something else. Don't go with the T-pose because it's going to be very obvious. Whereas if you get a pose that's more realistic to what your characters would be doing, running around, shooting, whatever, it's going to look more normal when you do stuff. So anyway, while it's importing, there's a lot of things over here for destructible settings. We don't really need to change any of it, to be honest. What we will end up doing is playing around with the cell site count, which tells how many fragments we will do. And I can show you where you can make some other changes. But let's start really simple. Let's go ahead and let's say that we are going to have... Oh, let's make him really jib up. He'll jib into a spray of pieces. So we're going to put in 100. And you don't really have to change the random seed. You can leave this as 0. So I wouldn't worry about that. We won't change anything up here until we see this work. Now, at this point you click Fracture Mesh, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to make the destructible part of this. Because of the number of pieces, in fact even normally, because of the number of pieces, this can take a little bit. So I'm going to click it and I'm going to pause, and then I'll come back. So we click Fracture Mesh. Now I'm pausing, and then I'll be back. Okay, so it's processed all the chunk. It's busy auto-saving. You can see it's nice and shattered here at the moment. Now if you go to Preview Depth 0, which you can start at, everything's together. So if you were to spawn this normally, if you had your normal figure, and you did this as soon as they died, you could start with this. I wouldn't, since your point is to make them explode the moment they die anyway. Now if you go to Preview Depth 1, that's where you can actually see what it looks like when it starts to shatter. Pull it all the way to the left. And as you can see, if we start going to the right, we get a lot of explodey bits. Now one other thing you'll see is that if you look inside of the explodey bits, it's hard to tell with these ones, but for instance down here, you can see the world texture grid. Well, you can actually change that. So if you go into the materials for the skeletal mesh, here are all the materials that were used in the original skeleton. So you could actually change all those out for a meaty texture. I don't actually have a meaty texture offhand. And then the world grid material is what's inside of the chunks. So if you want to change this out, you could. I don't know if I have anything in here that really is going to look very good for this. If I don't want to pull something new in. Will that work? I don't know. Let's see. Save. Oop. Yeah, I made them transparent, so we really didn't want that one. Well, just for the sake of showing, we'll just grab something different. So, wood chips. Compile. The point being that you can have different textures for everything in that way. You can change all the textures out when you want, which again is not something I'm going to spend a lot of time doing right now because that's easy to do. Just go and do material changes. Whereas I wanted to show you the process for making this actually explode. And again, that one doesn't work because it's got invisibility in it. Grrr. Here, let's grab the weapon master material. Okay, so now when we explode, you can actually see it's got the weapon master material. Not exactly meaty and chunky, so we'll say that I'm a robot. Because yeah, this is a model I made of me. Okay, so let's take our destructible mesh, and if we don't want to change the materials around, we can add in fracturing effects. So if we wanted to, we could add particle effects here, such as blood splurts or other things that would be played the moment he starts to fracture. I'm not going to do that today either. I mean, I could go and I could try and go with like the explosion dark or something from one of the weapons, but I'd rather you just see how the basic function works, and if people want to get into a really detailed version of this, I can do it down the road. Here we go. Here's our level of detail, so on, support debris, depth parameters, all stuff that you can look at more information online. It's nothing we're really going to have to worry about for our purposes for jibbing. Accumulate damage. Each one of the chunks can take damage and cause further breakdown, but we're okay with where we are there as well. Okay. Debris lifetime min and max. Actually, even though it doesn't really matter, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this out. We're going to say 2 seconds. It doesn't really get used in the way we're doing it, but it doesn't hurt either. Impact velocity threshold. That's the relative velocity of pieces when they hit each other. We don't need to actually do anything with that. Impact damage. If you click this, it would allow it to be destroyed when it hits something. So if you were just to raise it up off the ground by a couple inches and then drop it, it would actually shatter. And then we don't actually have any chunk parameters that we have to worry about. You can go through and you can click all the individual chunks and say, okay, I want that to stay intact, or I don't want that to stay intact, or whatever the case may be. So let's save this one more time, because I want to be really certain I have it saved. We'll go back out to our game. And first off, let's just take a look at how this works. So if we take our destructible mesh and we put out into the game, we say play. See, nothing's happening. That's because we don't actually find anything. It's not that simple. If we had collisions turned on, we could actually go running into him and he would go to pieces. So what we have to do is we're actually going to have to make an actor. And that's also pretty easy. We'll go up here and you create a new blueprint class, and the new blueprint class is a type of destructible. You'll see we have a destructible actor. So we'll select that. This will be a blueprint for Destructokeith. This is also really, really straightforward. The only thing that's in here is this destructible component. In the destructible mesh area, you are going to add in your destructible mesh. Okay. You can change other things here if you want to. You could change those effects, those particle effects I was talking about. Not going to bother to do that. You can change scale, everything you would ordinarily expect. Simulating physics, we're going to want that. Let's see here. We are going to not want the hit event. We could turn that on. Well, let's turn it just for a second. Let's turn it on. Let's see here. Definitely visible. He's not hidden in the game. We aren't overwriting any materials. Certainly not in a case of only the owner seeing. Okay. So we should be good to go. Let's compile. Save. Close that out. And now let's drag out Destructokeith, the actor. Still not doing that. Because once again, we're still not applying damage. He's there, but we don't have anything set that just automatically hurts him because we don't have collisions enabled. So what we're going to have to actually do is spawn him as an actor, and then we're going to apply damage the same way we would apply damage to anything else, except we're doing it to a destructible. So if we go into a character, in this case I have a character base here, and let's open up my event graph on this one for the moment. Let's go to our kill player. So our player is going to die here. It goes through, does everything else. He would respawn, but what we're going to do is we're going to kind of work to preempt that a bit. Well, I mean, he will respawn, but we want to see him explode first. So what we can do is we can spawn an actor. Okay. And the class we're going to spawn him from is going to be our Destructo Keith. Our transform, I happen to have a transform in here for the respawn. The respawn takes the location of the actor at the time that they were killed and just respawns them in that spot. It was very basic. So we'll connect that up. Even if we're colliding, that's pretty straightforward. So what happens after he spawned? Well, we need to apply some damage to him. So let's apply some damage to our destructible component. You'll see it automatically puts up this destructible component here. We take our return value from the actor, because of course we have to tell it what destructible component we're talking about. And here we can be pretty simple. We can just say 100 for our damage amount, and our impulse strength, let's say 50, just for the heck of it. And for our location, just to keep it really, really simple, let's drag this transform from here, break the transform, and then just for that, go ahead and make it easy. We're just going to take the hit location so we can use the same vector for both. And then the one other thing we need to do is we need to hide the character. Now the character will actually respawn, so it'll come back, and I think it's 3 or 5 seconds. But we want to hide him in the meantime. Yeah, that was right through. Hide. So actor hidden in game. I'm gonna plug this in up here. So let's take all this. Slide that over a bit. We'll pull this down. Put that up. Okay. So in theory, all this should work. Let's put it to the test, shall we? So we play. Whoops, I forgot I left that guy there. I want to get rid of him so we don't get confused about who the actual one is. So let's delete him. Okay. Let's play. Now, let's kill everybody over there. He goes down. And I forgot to do something here, which is I didn't set Destructo to replicate. So let's find Destructo Keith again. Destructo Keith. Replicates. Come on, where is it? Replicates. So we need that. What's that? I forgot to actually tell it to hide. Huh? Whoops. Okay, so let's try this again. Back up. Well, we saw that he spawned, but he didn't exactly explode, did he? So let's take a look. We spawn our actor. We spawn him even if he's colliding. Destructible component, damage amount, hit location, impulse, strength, and so on. All that is good. We know he's spawning. So the issue pretty much has to be in the actor or the destructible mesh. So let's go back over there and let's look at this. We have simulate physics on. Dampening, angle, dampening. There is the damage for it. Hit. so there's nothing in the destructible actor that I can see that's an issue. So let's go to our destructible item himself. First, I want to make sure that I save this. Oops, preview F1. Yep. Of course, here you can import your own chunks as well. Okay, let's see your damage threshold 1. Let's put it 0, 1. That should be fine. Just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and turn on enable impact damage. We'll save. Go in. Let's go back on our map. Kill that guy. Oh, there we go. There we go. So now you can see he gets jibbed. He gets spread out across the universe. When our guy respawns, he respawns on top of the chunks. So you might think he's falling. Now, right now, we haven't really done much in the way of force here. Oops, I'm out of ammo on that guy. I'm going to redo this. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink the size of these windows. They're going to be really small? No, yeah. Actually, 800 by 600 should be good. So we'll do that. Close that out. Play. There we go. Now we get them both on the same screen. So, you watch and he explodes. Whoa. Okay, I have no idea what just caused that, but... Now, of course, the problem here... Let's switch over to the server. The real problem here is that I don't think it's doing exactly what it looks like it is, but it's all because the guy's falling. It's not because the force of the shot is doing everything. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. Okay, so within our BP-based character, let's just try changing out our damage. So right now we're just going for the generic apply damage. Let's do a radial damage from inside of the character. So, apply radius damage. Like this. Our base damage is going to be 100. The damage radius will be 100. Impulse strength will be 100. Let's make everything 100. Full damage. And we can still attach this location to be the hurt origin. Since we're doing radial damage, I don't know if it's going to make a big difference, but we'll connect it up. Do that. Let's go in here. There he sprayed a little bit more, and if you look on the server side, he sprayed quite a bit more, quite a bit differently. And that time he just kind of fell. Let's make certain we still aren't dealing with collisions here. Let's go into Destructo Keith and find Simulate Physics. No, is that the right one? I'll make certain that it wasn't a matter of hitting. Okay, so Simulate Generate Hit Events is currently off. Okay, so that shouldn't be the issue. And just to play it safe, we're going to let him live for 4 seconds and he'll self-destruct. That'll clean up some of the fragments on the screen, hopefully. Let's go back in. Yeah, on the server screen he goes flying, and on the client just kind of pops up and falls. So it's got to be a matter of where. We might want to make it a function that gets called locally. Let's go back here for a second. See how this works. That's right, yep. Just out of curiosity. I just want to see this for a second. Let's. Whoops. That's authority. Let's go up here. Let's plug this in. And the damage will only get applied if he has the authority. Okay, so we are running as a server, which we should be. Now he is sort of a little longer, but not that time. The player, the apply radial force isn't being consistent here. And it's kind of like, oops, he's out. Like the server gets the apply radial damage and actually does it that way properly, but the client isn't. So it would appear that it's running as the authority either way. We might need to try and make a hurt origin in the center of the character. I don't think that there's anything we do in the character himself. Let's just take a look at the destructive heath here. I don't think there's anything we can do here. Yeah, because of the type, there's nothing we do within here. We don't actually have they take damage and all that. As soon as you apply it, that's all there is to it. So we apply the radial damage and away he goes. Now we could try and ramp this up. It could just be a matter of timing. And the way I've got the location set up for the transform. Change it to 200. Full strength 2. 2,000! Just for that one. Play. Again, on the server, massively flying. And here it does not. Let's change that. Let's put our has authority back up here. The server's always the one doing this, even though it should be anyway. Yeah. Well, I'm going to encourage you to play around with this a little more. You get the basic idea here. I think I might play around with this a little more myself. All the steps are happening correctly. He spawns the destructible component in the location he was standing, which should be correct. Let's go back and raise our impulse strength again. Let's go to 1,000. Again, play with the numbers. At this point, I'm more or less playing. You understand the concept of this, hopefully. See, that's really weird. Seems to matter. the way to do this, because every time before it was doing that and it was not. But the impulse strength has something to do with it. Final play. Well, I'm not certain why that would do it. No, the jump didn't. And yet, if you look on the server, every time it's consistent. I'm not entirely certain what's happening, I'm going to be honest about it. But I'm also going to say that I just want to show you an easy way to use some extra jibbing. That is one way to do it without having to go out and create a bunch of different physics actors to bind together and the whole works. If you would like me to explore some other ways, I will. But for now, this was a new and different way of doing jibbing for you. And I hope you have a chance to play with it and enjoy it. And I will see you in the next tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. And if you aren't a subscriber, please consider subscribing and sharing this with your friends. You can find more information about mindless pursuits at the links below. And as always, I thank you for all of your interest and support.